because I have like a real fear of doing this and forgetting to press record.
Equivalent of that fear is, my studio is just one room, and so I hardly ever do like any recording or anything with my monitors on. I'm always in headphones, and so whenever an artist is over here uh, and we record something and then want to take headphones off and just turn the speakers on and listen to it and just be able to talk easier and stuff like that. I'm always so afraid, and I've done it on a good handful of occasions, where I'm going to forget to turn the speakers back off when we're doing the next take, and then their vocal has all kinds of ridiculous bleed from the speakers on it.
Mm.
And if you have headphones on, like, you won't notice that it's doing that. And you may go through all these takes and get great stuff, and then you go back and you listen and be like, oh my
Oh
God, this is
no.
unusable.
Oh yeah.
Terrible.
Oh yeah, man. Speaking of studios and stuff, we have a mutual friend, which is Mr. Mason Shirley. He's the
Yes,
one that told
yes.
me about you, so I want to thank Mason for reaching out because man, I was doing some research on you, and you got some really interesting stuff. But first, I want to talk about
Hmm.
it's 7 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and you told me, which is fine because I this is the usual time I get up to go, like to work and stuff. Um, but you told me you're I guess most creative like super early in the morning. Like, how did you figure that out?
Yeah. So it's kind of by necessity. Um, so I have six kids, and still have a full time job. I work at Second Baptist Church as the worship leader. So that's my office hours there during the week, or nine to
Mm,
five. And so if I'm doing extra music stuff, it's either got to be late at night or it's got to be early in the morning, because I guess the first few years of being here in town, um, I tried to get real involved in the music scene and get in with a handful of bands, and was doing a lot of gigging in the evenings, just to bring in more money because my wife stays at home with the kids. And but the downside there was that, like, just felt like I was always gone and never able to be present with the kids. Um, and so I was getting to a point where I wanted to rework my whole schedule, so that I could be at home and be more present, and just realizing, like, if I'm gonna take time for my own, like, outside music endeavors, it's got to have to be early morning or late at night. And so I just decided, I'm going to try the early morning thing, and just got to where I loved it, and I can feel a big difference in, I call it like fresh early morning brain, or like frantic late night adrenaline brain. Uh, and,
yeah.
and and I think those are just two very different headspaces that you're in. Um, and I don't know. I mean, every once in a while, that something like the schedule will lay out such that, like, I'll realize, okay, if I'm gonna finish this song this week, it's gonna work better for me to go late at night, and not have any kind of cutoff time, and just be able to work as late as I need to until I finish the thing, um, rather than being up in the morning and being like, okay, I'm gonna get up before, I'm gonna drink coffee, get going, be getting productive things done by about 5.
And that's what time you
But
get up, right? 4 o'clock is
yeah,
when you're
usually,
up
yeah,
to.
yeah. But then I'm gonna have a hard cutoff time, because I make sure that I'm over helping the family get up and eating breakfast with them before I need to head off to the office for the day. So the mornings have a cutoff time, which is healthy in a lot of ways, because it, like, keeps me from overdoing it on a song, or what I'm working on,
Hmm.
because, like, getting getting ear fatigue is a
Yeah.
big thing. Like, I can sense whenever I've been working on something too long and I'm losing perspective on it, and I need to just come back with fresh ears, and I'm going to have way better ideas.
Just hit
So
pause, save, walk away, come back.
yeah. And just sometimes I'll come back to it and I'll realize, okay, the thing I was chasing is not the right direction. Let's recalibrate here. So that is that I think most of the time that is really helpful for me. And just I don't know. It's just nice to be able to like take it slow. I'll usually start the morning by just sitting drinking coffee and pulling up some random music to listen to. And inevitably that's gonna be inspiring me towards certain ideas or whatever, and it's gonna be that the song I pull up to work on, like I'm gonna have different ideas than if I had like gotten the kids down for bed and then rushed over here and be like, okay, I'm gonna blast through finishing this song and I'm already in like adrenaline mode.
Because you're
You
also
know,
like, man, it's getting so late. I need to go to bed. Like,
yes, yeah, exactly. So I just love the feeling of taking it slow and everything's so peaceful and quiet.
early morning clarity.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. I don't I don't ever remember like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do something.
I didn't used to be for sure.
But you might be on to something. You might be on to something. I may give it a go. Like I have a little studio here, but this is like a straight up just a home thing, right?
Yeah,
I do
totally.
it
Yeah,
myself. But I
Mm-hmm.
did record my band's album here, Seattle Rising.
Nice.
We
Yeah.
did an original stuff, and it was just all here, my guitars, and then we sent it out to a studio to get everything like mixed right.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of one of those things where the studio was like, hey, if you're gonna do this by yourself, like do it by yourself. Get all your tones. Like don't come ask me for the tones. Just I would just like put the finishing touches on it.
Yep.
Do you prefer doing that too, or do you prefer working? Like if somebody's going to send something to you, do you prefer them to make all those creative decisions before it gets to you, or do you like prefer doing it from scratch with somebody? Are you open to doing something like that? Like how does that process work for you?
Yeah. So well, I kind of I work with people on all those different levels. A, a lot of what I do is remote drum tracking. So somebody will send me a song and they'll tell me any ideas that they have as far as drums. Like they might send me a reference song and be like, I really like the drum vibe on this song.
Mm.
And then I'll just, on my own time, um, I'm going to just pull it up and listen and create drums and record it all and then send them an MP3 of the whole thing and say, okay, here's my idea. Let me know what you think. You want me to change anything or do you like it as is? And I'll go back and do another pass if they want some changes. And then at the end of it, then I'm going to send them all of the individual mic channels and then they can do with that what they will. And so that can be as bare bones as like somebody from their bedroom that what they send me is just a rough mix of their vocal and their acoustic guitar. Or it might be a producer who has worked up a like they might be basically finished with the song, but they just have like programmed drums in there, and I'm coming as like one of the very last things. I'm going to replace their programmed drums. So and it can be anywhere in between those two ends of the spectrum.
Do you find it comical when somebody has program drums like that, or you just see it as part of the writing process?
Actually, no. It's totally normal because I get it like from a producer perspective. Like you need to have some kind of reference for what the drums are bringing to the song, at least in a placeholder kind of way, and. Really, my perspective on like when you should do the drums is changed a lot over the years. I think whenever I started, I guess I always had heard the mentality that the drums are like the first thing you want to record,
Yeah.
and then everything else builds off of that. and can line up timing wise. And there's definitely something huge to be said for that approach. But there's also a lot of magic in just using some kind of placeholder at the beginning for your sense of time,
Hmm.
and then saving drums for a lot later in the process because and that's definitely the way I do it most of the time whenever I'm doing my own productions. Even if I do, like, I don't even know how to program drums. Okay, that's
Oh,
not
okay.
in my wheelhouse at all. But so most of the time when I'm doing my own songs, I'll play something on the drums, but I know it's like demo. Just to line out the timing and get the overall feel there, and I'm gonna build out the rest of the arrangement with stuff. But then I'm gonna end up wanting to come back later and think like, okay, as the whole song has developed, I'm just wanting to hear different things on the drums that are like really sinking into some aspect of
Hmm.
it, just because I'm so big on the drums giving lots of character to the song, and and
As you should.
if I'm yeah like if I'm playing the drums at the very beginning with and the music that I'm actually hearing I'm playing along to is super bare bones. I'll in a lot of ways I'm kind of just guessing as to what
Hmm.
the full thing is going to end up sounding like. So when I get to that end perspective, that perspective obviously has changed because I've added so many different things, and so I'm going to end up. It's not uncommon for on my own songs for me to retrack the drums like two or three different times because I end up having new ideas at the end of it.
So how do you keep
So
yourself from like
yeah,
stopping from like over analyzing it? Like when do you know like okay, enough is enough? Like I've been working on this for 5 months. I've re-recorded this drum like 6 or 7 times. Like how do you know enough is enough?
honestly, that's a battle with every song. Um, and, and and I think that is definitely one of the big struggles with like working largely on my own as a producer. Um, and something that is not as much of a struggle whenever I'm like in person in the studio, if it's with Mason or somebody else. Like part of the magic of going to a studio and collaborating with people in real time is that you're all vibing off of each other and you land on a decision and you all just kind of know, okay, this is right and we're gonna
Mm,
go with this, and you're not even gonna give yourself the option of second guessing it later on down the road. And it's just like you could sit there and endlessly keep trying ideas, but part of the magic and of like paying, there's an artist paying for studio time, you're on the clock, like you've got to reach a decision and you got to just commit and move on, and know that your decision in that moment was the right thing. So when you're working totally on your own, you don't have all those same constraints like making you commit to a decision. So that can be a major pitfall. But I, I always have this balance of like, um, I do work so much for other people. Like I've got a whole queue right now of other songs that for other artists that I need to be tracking. Um, and so it's kind of a big deal if I'm going to set aside time to work on my own music. So I know I can't spend too long on it.
mm,
And if I do, that's other paying clients money that's not coming
sure.
in. So that's just like a hard practical constraint that does kind of keep me from going on too long. But in general, I do end up spending a very long time on my
So
songs, but it's just chipping out away at it little by little as I can fit time in schedule. Yeah.
so when you're doing like your own song, you basically you can handle the drums, you do the piano, you do guitars, you do vocals, you do the production, you do so
Hmm.
like how do you switch between those hats all the time? Because like you're doing the drums, right? Because that's your like your
Yeah.
main thing. So how do you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
like you're not overdoing it on the piano? How do you know you're not overdoing it on the guitar, on the vocals?
So in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like one thing. Um, I think. like being a songwriter and a producer, that gives me a certain perspective no matter what instrument I'm playing.
Mm.
And like it's just kind of a whole headspace. Like whenever I'm playing the drums, I'm still trying to think more in terms of like what is the big picture of the song need, and I'm trying really hard to not get so into all the little nerdy details of the drums that I'm losing perspective on like what really matters for the song. And it would be really easy to overdo and like overplay on all of the little drum details and then realize later on, I didn't leave myself any space to really
Mm.
do anything on other instruments. So always keeping that producer perspective. Oh well, and like as I'm playing the drums, I'm also there's part of my brain that's thinking like, okay, this is the pattern I'm playing, and this is what I'm gonna want the bass to do,
Mm.
interacting with this
So you kind
backbeat.
of have like a
And
basic layout in your head, so then
yeah,
you just
yeah, yeah,
track
yeah,
it.
and
Okay.
like as I'm workshopping ideas, I just this is the way my brain thinks. Like I'm playing something on the drums, and that just implies a lot of different things on other instruments, and so it's like I'm committing to a whole arrangement
Mm.
decision with this idea, and then I might hear it back, and even though those other things aren't there, like I'm still imagining them in my head, and I might figure out right away, okay, I don't like how this is laying out with the vocal. Let's try a whole different arrangement decision. So it definitely like it all kind of is the same thing whenever you're thinking like a producer. Um, and I've heard enough session musicians that I really look up to express that to some extent or another. Like the best session players are always thinking like a producer. Like even when you're not producing, but somebody's bringing you in to just play on their song, they're bringing you in because they're gonna trust you to serve the song, and so you're really trying to even if it's your first time hearing the song, and I've got to come up with something to play by in like 30 seconds. I'm trying to get inside that songwriter's head and that producer's head and come up with stuff like I'm trying to very quickly immerse myself into their vision and think, okay, if I'm imagining this musical idea like several steps ahead of where it is right now, like what does my intuition say needs to happen here? And it's not just that like, oh, this would be cool on the drums, but like
Hmm.
here's the big musical picture that needs to happen. Okay, what do the drums need to do to get it there?
But so it's not so
Yeah.
much about just trying to be flashy for the sake of being flashy. It's more about what helps
Yeah,
the
for
song
sure.
move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. Most of the time, it's a
So sometimes
less
you got to keep your
is
own ego
more.
in check. Then.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a session player will teach you to lose the ego real fast. Um, because it's so rare that anybody wants anything like super intense or technical. And there are definitely times
Sure.
whenever people will be like, hey, I want you to just bring it on this last chorus and like have lots of wild, crazy stuff. And it's like, okay, I've got to be able to pull off this kind of stuff like in one take and not mess it up. Okay, so now I'm drawing on all of my years of like nerdy technique stuff.
Sure.
Um, so
Have you
you,
ever
you
had like a crazy, like a crazy request? Like, hey man, I'm writing this worship song, and right here when this bridge hits, I want you to think you're Danny Carey from Tool and just go crazy. Like, have you ever had anything like ridiculous like that?
every once in a while, I mean, I've never had the Tool reference, but I've definitely had references like, uh, I need you to sound like Darren King from Mute Math, or like, this needs to be a total Travis Barker thing
Sure.
here because I don't know. That's the fun part about working with like indie artists who aren't on a big label and who don't have like very strict parameters of like what is acceptable in this genre. Like they can get away with doing whatever they want in their
Sure.
song. And so it's especially when you get people who are like coming in really creative. Like it's so fun working with an artist who has a lot of vision on their own, as opposed to just being, oh yeah, whatever you want to play, it's all good, man. Um, but
So some
like,
sort of direction is good.
yeah. And so yeah, sometimes like you'll have some pretty wild requests come in for like, I want something in this vibe or this vibe,
Sure.
and this just, that's what keeps it so fun, and because it's always different. You never know what you're going to end up being asked to play, and so
So you're having like all these like different requests. Like, so how do you do that tone chasing in 2026 when it's just like sometimes just so easy to just go digital and just get like a sample or something like that? So how long do you spend on trying to find the right drum sounds in this modern day age where everything's just kind of in the palm of your hands?
hmm Yeah, that's a big deal to me, and one of the things that I've kind of just tried to make as a little niche for myself is like, I want to be the tone guy. And so I've just spent years and years and years like learning to tune drums and learning to try to replicate sounds off of different records. And whenever somebody gives me a reference for like, I want the drums like the vibe on this song, I know that a big, like one of the big things about what they like about that is the drum sounds. It's not just the things that the person is playing on that recording, but it's like the way that the drums sound and what that aspect is bringing to the mix. Um, and so, like square one of that is, okay, let me get my drums in that ballpark of tone,
But
and
then you're switching like drum
and
pieces
then
around. Are you like
yeah.
researching what kind of drums they
I'm pulling,
use, heads?
I'm pulling different kick drums, different snares, different cymbals, the whole big thing. I mean, obviously, um, I have a collection of drums and sounds that are really like kind of tailored to my certain tastes,
Hmm.
and so there's a lot of sounds that I just I don't particularly enjoy, like super bright piercing rock sounds. I just that's not my thing. So I don't have many drums and cymbals that do things in that vein, but people don't really come to me for that. So but like most other types of drum sounds, like I can be able to capture almost anything somebody needs. And so yeah, I'm changing out drums, doing lots of fast retuning, and the dampening is a huge part of getting different drum sounds. So it might be that like I'm just putting a little bit of tape, or I'm using studio rings, or I'm putting towels over the drums, or like all of this stuff just sounds different. And I'm getting a lot better at hearing a drum sound on a recording, and I
Hmm.
can come up with a pretty good guess of what kind of dampening they're using
Oh,
to
okay.
shape those tones, and be able to capture sounds like that pretty quickly.
That's pretty
Um,
cool. Do you have like a secret
and
weapon there in the studio that like that you always go to when you're like having a hard time either figure something out, or like you need that one sound and the customer is not really having it? It's
yeah,
like, you know what? Let me get this.
yeah. Hold on. Okay, one of my secret weapons that just works way more often is these towels. These are literally from AutoZone. They're like leather towels that you get for like, I don't even, like, I guess wiping down a windshield, or like a car finish or whatever if you're washing yourself. But they're they come in these big sheets, and so I just like cut them to various
Oh my god, I
sizes.
love this. Please
But
explain.
they just sound so good on the drums. It like, you know, I'll place it over the entire drum head, or I might fold it in half and just take a binder clip and like clip it over the edge, just like covering 1 inch of the drum head or something like that. And I'll hold it there and I'll play the drum and I'll listen to like the sustain or the character of it, and I'll think, okay, it needs to be shorter. I'm gonna scoot this a little bit more toward the middle,
Mm.
and then play and listen right there. Um, and I don't know, just more. I have this big like duffel bag that I bring with me to every session, and it's got just tons of towels and tambourines and shakers and whatnot. But a lot of it is just various dampening devices, and so these just like you could put a bandana, just a standard bandana over the drum, and it's gonna sound a certain way. I think it's gonna end up sounding kind of thin, but then you put one of these towels over it, and it's just thicker, and there's like the leather kind of texture on it. It just brings out this warm, fuzzy resonance out of the drum that is just magical. So,
So this is kind
um,
of like
yeah,
what I was talking to Mason about, like
uh
how
huh,
to keep the human feel and human creativity
yeah,
always in your
man,
recordings. That
yeah,
it's like I told him, like there's a certain point. So like I'm a rock guy. Like I listen to a
mm-hmm,
lot of rock music, but I listen to
yeah,
everything. There was a certain point, and I don't know when that point started, that all the rock bands started to sound the same. The
mm-hmm,
guitar
yeah,
tones, the drum tones, the bass
mm-hmm,
tones, the way that they're singing, like the vocal chains. Like I just don't know what it is, but it's
yeah,
starting to sound the same, and I just really haven't, or maybe I'm just not doing enough. It could be that too, right? I'm not perfect. Maybe I'm just not doing enough
yeah,
research and finding bands that I really like. But I think after a while, how convenient some of the stuff is, and I'm not knocking anybody that uses plugins and stuff like that, because I use
yeah,
plugins in the
sure,
Seattle Rising record, right? We have a very distinct sound, 90s grunge and post grunge alternative
mm-hmm,
rock. So I just happen to own Neuro DSP plugins, and they
mm-hmm,
have the Soldano amp plugin, and they
yeah,
have Tom Morello's 90s plugin that sounds like
oh,
Rage Against
nice,
the Machine. So I just blended those
uh-huh.
two together, and then boom, 90s guitar sound, right?
I, I
So nothing
I
wrong
have I
about
have
that.
Corey Wong's um,
Oh, that's a great one.
neural
Yeah, that's
guitar plugin that
I have
I'll
a
use quite a bit. Yeah.
relationship with Neuro that I honestly
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my wife to find out I have this relationship with Neuro,
Oh mercy.
because I think she will divorce me. But but sometimes just sitting in a studio with a real amp and a real cab, you have this feeling, and then you like being able to dial stuff in with your own
Mm-hmm.
fingers. Like there's that
Yeah.
the human touch, responsive. Just being responsive to the touch that says something, that creates something
Mm-hmm.
special. Like the albums from the
Yeah.
'60s and the '50s and the '70s and the '80s and the '90s, right? So like,
Yeah.
how do you try to capture that magic? Because I mean, you just said it with the little towel, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I asked the AI, hey, how do I get this? Like, what do you think? It's not gonna send me to
Mm.
AutoZone to
Yeah.
buy that, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I saw another one of my favorite drummers like recommend those, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go get it. But in general, yeah, I think the just one of the goals that you just gotta have today, like more than any other time in music history, I think, is this like relentless quest to be unique and human. Because especially with all the AI stuff, like
mm,
it, if the goal is to sound more massive than the next band, like massive and clean and like to have the most perfect stadium filling rock tones ever. Like, sorry, AI can do that better. Um, or if I want the most perfect clean pop drum sound, AI can do it better than I can do. But if the goal is to be kind of weird and quirky and unique, and I can come up with stuff that AI is not gonna come up to, and like it might be, like it might not be as perfect and classic sounding, but it's gonna be unique and interesting. And I think in our day and age, like that's more valuable, and that's why you would choose to bring a real human on your song rather than just saying, "Hey Suno, create me the perfect rock drum sound for this."
Mm.
It's going to come up with something that sounds amazing, but is it going to feel unique and creative, and like, is it going to give you this feeling of, oh my gosh, like that brings a whole other dimension to this song that I never would have landed on, and that's going to make me have all kinds of different decisions down the road. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just think we can't be chasing perfect anymore because AI has that on lock. So now the goal is just to be more fearlessly creative and weird and quirky.
I mean, how impressive it is to listen to some of these bands in the 60s and the 70s playing
Mm-hmm.
so perfect without a click, just
Yeah.
being good musicians, right? Just
Right. Well, and in a lot of ways, like they're not perfect. Like
right. And that's what made
you
the
hear
song the
their
song.
you hear their tempo wavering like crazy, or you might hear notes that were like shanked a little bit or whatever, but that's just part of the magic. Like it's not perfect, but there's so much intensity and there's so much emotion and so much like rawness there that you hear stuff that's like every note is perfect and it's perfectly on the grid now, and it's just it doesn't have the same soul or punch that classic recordings did, and it's a big part of it. Um,
Sometimes just stuff you can't teach too, right? It's just something that maybe like you just kind of like have within you sometimes.
yeah, yeah. Or I think a lot of it just comes down to musical intuition that you're drawing, like when you're working on a song and you're making really quick decisions about what needs to happen in this layer or that layer. Really, like the biggest thing that you're drawing on is your lifetime's worth of music listening,
Mm.
and how much time you've spent poring over this record or that record. um you know all of your lifetime worth of studying music is all coming to bear in this moment when you're creating something here, because I might be thinking like, okay, this song is totally giving me vibes from this other song and this song and maybe a little bit of this song, and so I'm like split second, my brain is like pulling all of these different references in, and I'm creating something that's kind of pulling in from all of them, but being its own unique thing. And I think everybody, to some degree, even if you're not recording, maybe you're just like coming up with an arrangement for your band, you're drawing on, even if it's like at a deep subliminal level, like this song kind of sounds like these other songs from my favorite artists, and
Mm.
so the things that you're deciding to play are kind of in the vein of this other thing that is in the back of your mind. And so I think we're all doing that in some way or another.
How do you keep
um,
yourself from tastefully stealing instead of just straight up plagiarism from your favorite bands and sounds?
well, that's always a hard line to walk to. I've heard this quote my whole life. I don't know who it's attributed to, but um, good artists borrow, great artists steal. Um, and I think the heart of that is getting at like, find something you love that a total master has done and figure out to the very best of your ability how to copy that, and like try to get in that person's head and just like get so like the closest that you can possibly achieve to sounding like that person.
And it will
um
100%
but,
make
but
you a better musician
yes,
for sure.
absolutely, like that's just gonna immerse itself into your musical DNA, and then when you're creating something on your own, it's going to be uniquely your own, but it's going to be very informed like by all those different things that you have like spent the time
And what a
working on studying.
great
So,
compliment, right? For you, somebody's like, man,
oh yeah,
this sounds like,
yeah,
this band. Like,
yeah,
you wrote
totally.
this?
Whenever and I grew up like my formative years as a musician in high school were I was in a punk rock band with two of my best friends, and so I was just obsessed with Travis Barker and Blink 182 at the time, and I had so many like Blink records just memorized note for note on the drums,
Such a
and
good drummer.
yeah, and I mean I really like my musical tastes have evolved like so much since then, but like that's just where like whenever we were writing songs as a band, like I ended up, I think without even realizing it, I totally ripped off like so many Travis Barker drum parts. Um, but just because that was where my head was at, and I had spent so much time like poring over and learning his drum parts that whenever I went to create my own, they ended up sounding like almost note for note like this song or that song of
Mm.
theirs. But it's like I think as the years went on, like I was able to do it in a more authentic way to where I could pull in lots of bits of that vocabulary, but then still end up coming up with things that felt unique to me. Um, and so I'm big on the idea of like when I'm working on a song, I may be very obviously trying to channel a particular drummer
Mm.
and trying to think like what would Steve Jordan play on this song, and that's absolutely the vibe that this song needs. So like I'm gonna try to do my best
So
Steve
you're kind of
Jordan
like creating a persona
impression
for you
here.
for you to like embody when you're.
Yeah. And, and inevitably, like I'm not gonna end up sounding like Steve Jordan. I'm gonna end up sounding like me, but me trying to get in somebody else's head who in my brain is just like the perfect exemplification. I don't think that's a real word. I don't know. But like the perfect example of this particular vibe that the song needs. Like that's the headspace I need to be in. Um so
So whenever
yeah.
earlier when you're saying like you've drawn from like your years of studying music and listening to music, you went to school
Hmm.
for music, right? You went to Howard Payne University, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you got a
My
master's
bachelor's.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. My bachelor's is from Howard Payne University, and I studied like classical percussion, um, and then my master's is from Southwestern Seminary, which is a school for ministry. But at that time, they had a jazz studies concentration that you could be in. So I got to study with an incredible jazz drummer, um, and yeah. So I'm very much coming from a like studied music perspective, but also like at the core of my DNA, like I still grew up learning rock songs by ear and stuff. So I'm definitely not like a stiff classical musician.
Yeah,
I appreciate that world and I love music theory and stuff, but I'm still very much like a by ear,
that's cool.
play by feel guy.
Did that like going to get your master's there? Did that influence you in any way to pursue that world after you graduated to go into church ministry, music, like in that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I knew. Well, so when I started college, I thought I was on track to be a band director
Hmm.
or like a percussion director at a bigger high school that could sustain a full time percussion guy. Um, but then senior year, but I had always been involved in music ministry at any church that I had been in, like playing drums or guitar or like playing and singing or whatnot. That has
So you
just been
kind
a
of
huge
grew
part
up
of
in
my
that
life.
environment.
Yeah, for sure. And so so summer before my senior year of college, I was leading music for a children's camp at a Christian camp, and I just felt like God was telling me this is actually the path that I'm supposed to be on, and so I switched up my degree plan a little bit, and and I was I told my wife, who we were just dating at that point, but I told her, I don't think I'm actually supposed to be a band director. I think I'm supposed to go into ministry. And she was like, well, duh, I've been telling you that for years, and you wouldn't listen to me.
So that's
So
when you
yeah,
knew she was the right one.
yeah, she was right. Yeah. But yeah, so then I looked, I went to school for ministry, and I was simultaneously realizing, like, I am so not cut out to be in a classroom of kids all day. I mean, I love kids, but I am not good at managing a whole room full of wild kids.
Oh man, you're telling me.
So
I'm a soccer coach. I got about 16 of them I have to keep in check.
it just my brain will get overloaded
Just full of
so fast
energy.
with that.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I have my son is 12. I coach his soccer team, so
Uh-huh.
there's about 16 boys there. And then this year,
Yeah.
my daughter's coach fell through, so I'm coaching the 8-year-olds.
Oh
So
man. Yeah.
yeah,
I
talk about patience.
yeah. I love soccer. Side note. But I am too nice
Mm,
to manage a room full of kids, because at a certain point, like, you gotta just lay down the law,
yeah,
and
they'll walk all
I
over
can't.
you,
I
man.
can't. I know. I can't do it.
That's funny. So but
Um.
going back to like your
Yeah.
writing music for church and all that, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what's the biggest challenge you have of like of making translating these words that are changed so many people's lives, and words that are like really old and ancient. They have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of history behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get that, and how do you change that to inspire you to write songs for in this modern day era, even though of just like a modern congregation? Like, how do you make that feel fresh for people that are going to church?
Yeah. Well, so I love the challenge of taking a concept, or like a scripture verse, and trying to come up with a melody and a way to present it that feels unique and compelling. But a huge part of what you're trying to do whenever you're writing for a congregation to sing, is it's got to be like compelling and intuitive. Um, when you're writing for yourself as a solo singer songwriter or whatever, like, you kind of have just like uh, a blank canvas, and you could come up with anything, and as long as it feels unique and it lays out well for your voice, then it feels good. But when you're writing for a big group of people to all sing together, that puts a tighter set of parameters around it. And I think I'm a person who can get overwhelmed by the number of options that I could do.
Mm.
So I appreciate having some really tight boundaries, and so I'm trying to think of things that are a little bit more spacious and open, and like rhythmically, it needs to be simple enough that people can predict where it's going to go, and they can all, like, if it's super syncopated and the melody is kind of jumping all over the place, then if a big group of people try to start singing it all at once, they're not going to be able to do it. They're not
Hmm.
going to be able to sync up. But if it's like very predictable, and you could tell where the melody is going to go, and you kind of have this innate sense about what's coming next, and it's always a good marker. Like, by the time I get to the end of the chorus, if people are already singing along, then like, I know, okay, this is intuitive. They can tell where it's going.
Which is
This is
like
great.
you've done a great job if you're doing that, because the whole purpose is unity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like my the entire goal is to be able to give people a chance to sing together, uh, and unify an expression of worship to the Lord. And so I don't want my writing of the song to make it harder for them to do that. Like I'm
Mm.
trying to set them for success and be able to get to that goal sooner. And so then the challenge is to write things that have an intuitive quality to them, but that also feel fresh and unique. Because I've spent so much time poring over these like classic hymns that people from all kinds of different church backgrounds, there's a certain collection of hymns or like older songs that have been used in worship that so many people know, and so you're analyzing and you're drawing on those and thinking, okay, what makes this like so rich, and why have people continued to want to sing these songs for hundreds of years? Like there's some quality about these melodies and these words that really resonate with people, and so I want to try to get to the heart of those qualities and bring them into my own writing. And so, but it's very easy to, if you have that goal, to come up with things that sound very unoriginal, like
Sure.
they, you can tell exactly where they're going, and
Mm.
okay, like I know where this is going, and this is not fresh. It
So you
doesn't
want
move
to
me at
add
all because
some?
it doesn't feel new, and
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
that challenge is just really exciting to me. Um,
And I bet when that pays off, that's you know you've done well.
yeah, for sure. And there's definitely been times where something I've written I was super excited about, and then I bring it in front of the congregation to sing it, and it's like nobody gets it. And by the end of it, I'm thinking, okay, this either I just need to scrap this idea, or it needs to go back to the drawing board and like try to figure out what about this is not intuitive. And it's so like I don't know, any songwriter, whatever kind of setting they're writing for, like they'll tell you like the real litmus test is when you perform it in front of people, how does it land?
Yeah.
And especially like whenever you're trying to get other people to sing it, like you just right away whether it's landing and whether they're getting it and they're participating along, or if it's falling flat. And so and just the more times that you do it, the better sense you have in the writing phase of um, of whether people are going to get this or not. And it's just incredibly valuable to show it and get feedback from different people, and get like people's gut reaction to it. Like, is this really intuitive? Can I tell? Like, do I understand this from the get go,
Mm.
or are they getting to the end feeling like, okay, what is this song about?
How
It's
many
like,
people do you show the songs to before you take it to the congregation and play it and have them
um,
learn it?
well, it's I most of the time, if it's okay, so my schedule for writing something will a lot of times be like, I know that we're going to be singing this. I mean, that we're supposed to use something in worship from this particular psalm. Like this week, it's Psalm 115, and like I know for months that scripture is coming up on this Sunday, and so I need to figure out some way to use this in our worship. And so I'm looking ahead and I'm thinking, like I don't try to write something every week, but it's a nice challenge. Whenever I'll read through something and be like, okay, I can definitely write something from this. Let's do it. And so a lot of times, I'm starting something the week before, kicking around some ideas, but I'm really finalizing it on Monday or Tuesday of that week, and then I
Mm.
have a Wednesday night rehearsal with my team. So a lot of times that's the like I'm showing real people in a real room this for the first time, and I'm kind of gauging on their reactions. Like, are my musicians getting this from the beginning, and did they have a sense like, are my vocalists able to sing, and are they able to find harmonies, and are my musicians able to find something really quickly that makes sense to play, or is everybody really struggling with this, like knowing where to fit in with it? And if they're struggling, then that tells me, okay, it's probably going to be that the people in the congregation are also going to struggle. And so I need to rethink a lot of this and try to make some
Mm.
tweaks before Sunday comes. And
And I guess
so,
that's the
yeah,
part that we talked about earlier about keeping your ego in check too.
yeah, absolutely. Because,
They're like they are not getting this.
yeah, yeah,
This is such a
nobody's,
good song, you know.
yeah, right. If I'm trying to impress people with my fancy uh, cerebral writing, but it's not actually resonating with anybody, then that's and
Can't you tell
there's
I'm
definitely been
damping this with a towel from AutoZone? Come on.
yeah somehow all these different things relate in my brain, but yeah. Just it definitely makes you be in this mindset that like as a musician you're here to serve the moment, and I think um that's a big thing that just kind of permeates everything that I do musically. Um, in worship, I'm here to serve this moment, to help everybody be able to sing together, to let these scriptural truths that we're focusing on, like let these resonate in people's hearts and in the clearest way that I can. And so if I'm arranging songs with our band or if I'm writing something, I'm trying to let this come about in this fresh way, and to, of course, I'm bringing my artistry into it, but my artistry is not the goal. Like I want it to be like freshly intuitive, and not with people come away thinking like, oh, Kris is such a great writer or whatever. Like I'm wanting people to come away thinking like, wow, this scripture that we focused on, like this really came alive for me in a way that I hadn't thought of it
Mm.
before. Like that's the end goal that I want.
So
Um,
do you kind of like
yeah,
try to like intentionally steer like the church's music in a certain direction, or it's just whatever comes?
yeah. I've definitely I I have kind of honed this artistic vision for our music over the years, and it's really just like based on the culture of our people and the culture of the musicians that I have. Um, I think if you turn on Christian radio, there's a very particular sound that most of these hit songs have, and it's largely because like everything that you hear on Christian radio is coming from like one of four big megachurch organizations
Mm.
who are putting out music, and it just happens to be that everybody on the globe like loves this music, but it's kind of a weird bizarre thing in the Christian music world that like every virtually every hit song is coming from one of these four places,
Mm.
and so therefore the kind of the pressure that all church musicians feel across the globe is to sound like one of these other churches. And at the end of the day, it's like I think God brought this group of people here to this church for a specific reason, and I don't think it was for us to try to sound like some other church. I think it was for us to try to sound like us and be able to give our community a a musical uh, a musical offering that feels unique to us. And so I spend a lot more time in the like the folk music world, the singer songwriter Americana kind of world, and there are a lot of artists that like artists writing Christian music and music for congregational worship that is more in the folk singer songwriter kind of vein, and it doesn't make it on the most
Mm.
popular radio and playlists and whatnot, but it's still incredible music. And so that's a lot of the music that I will pull in is more in that vein, and most everything that I write is definitely trying to take take
And these
folk
are
music
decisions you're
and
making
like,
as a worship leader, right? Like these are the kind of day to day decisions you have to make.
yeah, for sure. And as far as like what songs are we going to sing, and when
The
I'm
songs, the
arranging,
styles, like all of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When I'm rehearsing our band, and I'm kind of shaping these arrangements. I'm definitely I'm not using a like the classic Christian radio approach is very much this massive stadium rock kind of sound. Um, but I don't really have any players in my church who can get those sounds. So
Hmm.
I have a lot more players that are maybe older, or they're just more versed in
So
like
it also
singer
comes down
songwriter
to the
folk music.
human material you
Yeah,
have too. Yeah.
yeah, right. If I had a different set of musicians, my sonic goals would be very different, because I just at the end of the day, like to uh I want the way that our music sounds to feel really unique to us. And I don't ever want to come off sounding like we're trying too hard to be something that we're not, and we're just coming off sounding really cringy.
Hmm.
Um
This
because
is
I
some
think
great advice for up and
you can
coming like
get
people that want to
yeah, I
become
mean, even
worship
from
leaders.
just a not even in a church setting. I'm sure you've seen bands playing live where you think like, oh, they're trying way too hard to be something that they're not. Um,
Yeah. It just doesn't
and
feel authentic.
yeah, exactly. And so maybe our authentic doesn't look anything like the church down the street's authentic,
Yeah.
and that's great. I love it. Um,
Like you're
so
talking about, you know, God had a purpose of bringing this particular people to this
yeah.
particular church in this point in time. But like I've read that you've played in some incredible places. Like you played at Carnegie Hall, is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've played it. You played in Ukraine at the Lviv Opera House. Like, but
Hmm.
why do you choose Corpus? Like, why Corpus?
Well, I just I think God very clearly called my family here to this church, and the Second Baptist Church is where I'm at, and this we love this church so much. They everyone is so sweet. The staff is great to work with, and we just really feel like this is where like God has planted me and my ministry. This is where He's planted my family, and even like it's I've had opportunities to do a lot of other cool things musically, that are super exciting. But th- this is still where I really feel like God has us as a home base. And so
Well, lucky
so
for
yeah,
us
that thank you, man.
to have
Um,
somebody, man, as really. I don't even know like exactly to this. You're just full of knowledge, man. It's great to have people in the local scene, uh, not just in church scene, but just the music scene in general that has a lot of knowledge. So it's one of the reasons why I want to talk to you, man. Like
oh
you
man,
got
I appreciate that.
so much depth and knowledge. This is great.
Thank you.
So you and your family are very involved with music as well, right? You guys did an album together, is that correct?
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah. So back in 2020, um, we okay. So backstory: we were a foster family for like 4 years.
Okay.
We originally just had two biological kids of our own, but my wife and I both come from big families with lots of kids, and so we just always kind of knew that would be our calling as well. And at some point, we just felt like God was leading us into the foster and adoption world, and just learning more about like what a crazy need there is,
Hmm.
um, and in that world, and just so many kids that need somewhere to go, either temporarily or forever. And so anyway, we just dove headlong into that ministry, and we ended up adopting four kids out of foster care, and we just really felt like we're musicians. Like we don't have a whole lot to bring to the world in various ways, but like we can write songs
Mm-hmm.
about this experience, and we can just like hopefully put some music out there that is inspiring to other people who have been down this road and need to feel seen, or to people who are curious about this and want to hear the heart of people who have been in this ministry. Anyway, so we wrote a whole record of songs about it, and it was my first real project, like as a producer. I had been doing a lot of studio drumming for Mason for several years, but this was my first like big foray, producing a whole project and playing all the instruments, and I learned so much about it. And I had done a lot of songwriting before then, but this is where like I feel like I really learned how to
Mm.
write songs, and it was just such a fun project to do, like with my wife. I mean, we had always played together, like me accompanying her singing,
Mm.
or us leading worship together, or stuff like that. But this was a really fun project, like taking this kind of thing on together, and it was definitely tough to be able to record all the final vocals late night while our kids are asleep, and um, to bring a whole studio setup at home for a few months, and because my studio has always been like somewhere else other than in our house, and
Mm.
so but to like be able to get to the finish line of this record, had to move a whole mobile setup into our house for like 3 months or so, and be able to like record vocals quietly late at night so we don't wake up kids. It was a wild experience, but yeah, so fun.
You learned a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, and that's out there under the artist name Kris Redus, and the record's called "Be the Village,"
That's
songs of
awesome.
hope for foster care.
That's awesome. So what's
So
next?
yeah, so I have a big batch of songs that I've written, like Christian songs, either for congregational worship or just more singer songwriter oriented songs that I'm working through right now, releasing on my own. I put out a single last month called "Oh Praise the Lowly Jesus," that I'm super pumped about, and I've got one coming out in a couple weeks. It's called "Empathy," and definitely like uh, just new territory for me. Like I've learned so much as a songwriter and a producer, and I'm really really proud of this music, and I'm so excited for it to get out there. And like I said, a bigger batch of songs that I'm going to be chipping away at over the next year, to hopefully, in the next year have at least an EP, if not a 6, 7 song record.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to do like a whole full length record, but when I'm still balancing, like a good chunk of my income is working on music for other people, so like carving out time for my own music is tough.
Yeah,
Um, Taking the
I feel you, man.
financial hit of not playing music and having income coming in. If
Sure.
I'm taking a month to work on my own music, that's
Yeah.
not income that's coming in. So it's tough to balance. But I have made that a big priority over this year. So and it's just fulfilling in a very different way, like finishing my own music and getting it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pumped.
I think everybody wants to eventually put something out that they've wrote top to bottom, and then not
Yeah,
because like I want to people to see what I can do by myself, but mostly just like to put your own ideas out there, because sometimes you're in a band with people, like your ideas get shut down, or
sure,
people,
yeah, yeah,
or not even shut down. At the end of the day, the song just kind of becomes something else, right? So it's really fun to write something that you've imagined top to bottom, and just hoping other people
yeah,
like it too. Yeah.
yeah, totally. And what's been kind of new for me on these songs is bringing in more collaboration. If I have a toxic trait as a producer, it's being a little too micromanaging over my own music. Like I'm not like that when I'm working on other people, but when it comes to my own music, like
Hmm.
I kind of have every detail like sculpted out the way that I want it to be, and I know that even if I'm not the best, you know, electric guitar player in the world, I still I can chip away at it long enough, and I can get it the way that I hear it in my head. But I have been like just biting the bullet and bringing in other people in the process, and it's been really rewarding. So
Yeah.
I'm still playing most of the things on here, on these music, but in some like very notable ways, I'm bringing in other people, and it's bringing a lot of dimension to these songs that like just skill sets that I don't have. Like I brought in somebody on these past two songs. His name's Matt York. He's the professor of woodwinds at A&M Corpus.
Ooh.
And I had him play a bunch of different woodwind layers, saxophones and flutes and clarinet and bass clarinet and all kinds of cool stuff that's just like this whole other rich layer to my music.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine
That's
from
so
college
cool.
that's writing string arrangements and yeah, it's like I'm definitely seeing the benefit of branching out and bringing in other people here. So that's been really fun as well.
Thanks, man. Well, I just want to
Yeah.
say thank you for doing this. You spoke about how you
Yeah.
have to you chip away time to write your own music and work on projects to bring income, and here you are taking time to come talk to me. So I appreciate that. I know your kids are probably gonna either up already or they're gonna be up here in a little bit. It's Saturday,
Yeah.
so who knows, right? They
Right.
could
Yeah. I'm gonna go see who's up.
yeah, we're gonna go see who's up and see
Yeah.
who's ready to eat some breakfast. But dude, thank you so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
This was really fun, dude. I hope to see you out and about again.
Yeah. Sure, man.
Maybe catch you on a show too, jam together. It'd be really fun.
Totally. Love that.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye.